We'll start. Okay. Thank you very much for your introduction. Yeah, dear friends from the digital, I need my glasses, from the digital community, I'm really happy to be here with you this morning to speak at the Repblica. And indeed, I was a little bit surprised to be invited to this conference, since I thought that I am not the usual target group of the Repblica. Malte knows it better, not by my age, for sure not by my computer skills, and not by the topics I'm usually working on. Mostly, I talk on global justice, on humanitarian aid, on equal rights for men and women, for lesbians, gay, bisexuals, transsexuals or intersexuals. Mostly I fight against racism, xenophobia, anti-Semitism, Islamophobia. But in the end, it's always on the question of human rights. I just returned on Sunday from a visit to Sicily, a place where just last weekend over 7,000 refugees arrived, where the Sicilians take care for the stranded with big effort and big heart. A place in Europe where Europe at the same time is hardly found and far away. A place to realize how much Europe's refugee policy has dramatically failed. And then I come here to learn that this year's Repblica places an emphasis on refugees and Europe's responsibility. And rethinking that, I find it very logical, because the Repblica is a conference that is dedicated to the one of the biggest challenges and the biggest chances for humanity at the same time. Digitization is not just a technological process, you know it better than me, and it is not just about digital representation of an object, an image, a sound, a document, or a signal. Digitization is a manifestation, an indication, and a driver of a world growing closer together. And that is where digitization and migration are so similar. Because flight and migration on a previously unknown scale are a manifestation and an indication of globalization too. And they can become a driver of a world growing closer together in a positive sense. They could lead to a better understanding between people from all over the world, could lead to an increase of tolerance and sensitivity for the beautiful, rich diversity which exists in this world, and to the important experience of the state of global injustice we are all living in. Currently, however, migration is far too frequently discussed in the opposite way. I really have to thank the organizers of the Repblica for this year's title, Finding Europe, because ultimately it's us we are talking about, us living in Europe. The richest continent in the world, the Nobel Peace Prize winner, a continent which is or which should be proud of its values of human rights, human dignity, of freedom and peace. But also a continent which seems to be stuck in the politics of the last centuries, a continent denying reality, refusing to face up to the way in which the world is interconnected today. Yet people are being smashed on the rocky borders of Fortress Europe. More than 1,700 this year. More than 27,000 since the turn of the millennium. Europe simultaneously is searching, and we, the people of Europe, are searching for the Europe we want, for Europe's place in the world. But at the same time, people, men, women, children, are dying by their European dream. Also, this night people died. They already know for sure what Europe's about. And we, the people of Europe, should know it too. What were the priorities of the heads of state of the European Union when they met last week? When they were faced with the question of what to do to stop people dying in the Mediterranean? Their answer was very simple: fighting smugglers using the military and stopping refugees from even reaching European shores, and criminalization of refugees in calling them so-called illegals. But is that really the answer of Europe, of the European Union, to so many people drowning in the Mediterranean? I say, if this is their answer, then take away the Nobel Peace Prize from the European Union and give it to the people of Sicily. They show every day and night what humanity and solidarity means. Where is the humanitarian rescue mission we need? Where is the humanitarian rescue mission we need? Where are the safe and legal access points for refugees, people in dire need of international protection? Where are the real answers of the heads of states? The real answer is not to do as the Bavarian Prime Minister Seehofer did, traveling from Bavaria to Saudi Arabia to discuss a new deal on arms exports to a country that precisely at this moment is bombing civilians in Yemen. The real answer is not to export surveillance technology to Egypt, to Qatar, to Morocco. The real answer is not reverting to supporting authoritarian regimes in Europe's neighborhood with our technologies and our money. The real answer is to accept that migration is a reality, to accept that globalization needs global answers and global cooperation. In a world in which 70% of the people live in countries in which social inequality has dramatically increased in recent years, in which the 80s richest own as much as the poorer half of the world put together, 80 as much as 3.5 billion people, there is a need of global partnership, for global partnership, real cooperation to promote global development. Cooperation based on shared values far beyond the borders of Europe. And what other values could these be if not human rights? Human rights which are indivisible, inalienable and universal. The human rights to which all people are entitled by virtue of their humanity. No religion, no custom, no law can restrict their universal validity. The German constitution states that human dignity is inviolable. And that applies to every human all over the world, being black or white, being man, women, being a refugee, a bank manager, a digital native, or all of this together. Respecting human rights, saving lives, and to empower them to be a part of a movement developing this world into a better place. This is the only and right answer to flight and migration. Only in this way, migration can become a driver of a world growing closer together in that positive sense as said before. But what about digitization in this context? Human rights should also be the base of that driver of globalization, especially if we talk about the dark side of digitization. If it is not internet-driven opportunities for economic development and social innovation on display, if we are talking about surveillance and constraints on net neutrality, then again, human rights are the real answer. And that this is possible was shown at the United Nations Human Rights Council in 2013, when the international principles on the application of human rights to communication surveillance were launched. These involved principles like legality, necessity, adequacy, due process, transparency. Thus, new projects of the European Union, like smart borders, that introduce new technologies for the surveillance and control of everybody, of travelers, have rightly been the subject of harsh criticism as unlawful infringement of data protection rights and as an unnecessary and disproportionate infringement of European fundamental rights, and particularly the right to privacy. There is no need for a collection of sensitive personal data on such a massive scale. We are witnessing a very alarming tendency that surveillance is not being limited by laws. The opposite is happening. Surveillance is being extended to refugees, robbing the already robbed, taking away more human rights and dignity from people who have already lost so much, have already lost everything. That, my dear friends from the digital community, is not acceptable. It is not acceptable from a human rights point of view, and it is not acceptable from a digital point of view. So, that is maybe the biggest challenge we face when we talk about digitization and the linking up of the world, that we need to have binding rules and a baseline of common values which nobody, no state, no venture and no Europe should ever disobey. It's a protection of human rights. Humanity already has the right answer. We now and eternally have to implement it. A lot to do and high time. Thank you. Thank you so much for being there.
Hello, everybody. Are you having a good time? Thank you. First of all, I would like to thank Repblica for this opportunity, because as a refugee, we are believed, or we are made to believe, that we are useless. We can't be anywhere to speak for ourselves. And I would love to appreciate the beautiful lady, Claudia Roth, for strongly coming out and fighting for something in the continent of Europe, majority are opposing. Thank you so much, and I appreciate on behalf of all the refugees in the world, not only in Germany. Because she's not only fighting refugees in Germany, but globally. And that is a beautiful point of it. And I'm really so happy to take some few minutes to keep appreciating you on behalf of all the refugees in the world, because they need people like you who put politics aside. And you mentioned something. Migration is reality. We can't avoid. That's the world we live in. That's a reality. Every country has a problem. Who knows that Claudia Roth, tomorrow she will need me? Who knows? Who can prove me wrong? Today I need her. She's in the front line fighting for us. Who knows she needs me tomorrow? I could take your position and fight for everybody's right, just the same way she's doing. Thank you. I'm still on you, so now I have to move on. My name is Fatuma, and I'm originally from Somalia, and I was a migrant in Kenya, where I grew up pretty much all my life. I came to Kenya when I was 3 years old, and right now a refugee here in Germany is struggling for my rights and the rights of the rest of the refugees in the world, not just in Germany alone. I'm currently doing a small initiative that's called Solidarity Motivational Speech Tour for the refugees. I felt that as a refugee who has been denied all the rights that I had in my life, and just like anyone else who is a refugee or a migrant, I had to accept the reality that I had to live a different life, a different world that I'm used to. No work opportunity, no more education, further education if you want to continue with your life. All the dignity has been taken away from you, and being put as a refugee in a very isolated place where you don't have anything to do for yourself. Come on. Just look at me. I'm very young. I have a life ahead of me. I had a big dream Actually, to just remind you, I resigned my job while I was here in Germany. That is how the situation was with me. People think that we can do anything. We can do anything like anyone else. We are human beings. Don't forget that. Put the politics aside and let the people face the reality. As she mentioned, human rights, dignity should be in the priority line. I'm currently trying to help my fellow refugees to refugees, because a lot of people are in the world saying, right of the refugees. We want to do this for refugees. We want to do that. But I felt, instead of wasting my time, not thinking properly in a very isolated situation as a refugee, I had to accept that I have to live this life. I don't know how long it will take. But there's something I can do for the needs of the refugees, and that is encouraging one another as refugees, since we have the same problem, all of us. We all fall under one umbrella, as refugees, as migrants, here in Germany. So I felt that I can use what I have. I don't have money. I can't publish books for them and do whatever they need, but I have one skill with me, which will never be taken away, and that is my public skill, which I believe I can talk to the refugees, tell them, hey, listen, I know it's a very hard situation. I'm in the same way with you, so nothing should take our life away from us. Our dignity should be individualized. You fight for your rights and keep it. You should not allow anybody to intimidate that and take it away. They can make us desperate. They can refuse us to work. They can refuse us whatever. Fine. But listen, I will fight no matter what until maybe I'm dead. I don't know that one. I can't do anything about it. But I will keep fighting for myself and for the rest of the people, not just in Germany, but in the world, whoever that needs my help. As long as you're a human being, I don't care about your race, I don't give a shit about your religion, I don't care who you are. All I care is that you're a human being who deserves dignity, period. Thank you. Thanks a lot. And I will continue with this motivational speech tour. And I will try the best that I can to talk to my fellow refugees and let them feel that it's not the end of the world. They can still do something for their life. On the other hand, we know we have a lot of problems. That is the reality. That's the fact. But on the other hand, I want to challenge my fellow refugees to go and be part of the community. Because my tour is not only for refugees, it's also for non-refugees. Because I was trying to view what is racism, according to me. When somebody is discriminating you because of your color or whatever, I thought it's lack of information. When people have information, when they know what are the problems of the refugees, what made Fatuma flee her country, what made her be in such a desperate situation, they don't feel what it means. Because I wish you could allow me to stay in your house 1 week and you stay in my home. Not you particularly, but those who feel like they're in the high position that everything is fine. When you feel the experience yourself is when you can talk more about it. That's the truth. But at the same time, I think those racists or whatever, I don't like to use the name, I'm sorry, but that's how the world calls it. They need information, and I am ready to take and do whatever it takes to help them understand who are refugees, who are migrants, who are human beings. The question will come back. If you are a human being, then why are you discriminating against a human being who needs your help? You should be in the front line for fighting for everybody. Germany, they have their own problems. I always tell the refugees, you have a problem, yes, but everybody in the audience has a problem. Everybody has a problem, but our problems are different. The levels are different. There's somebody fighting for documents like me to get a job. Somebody has marriage issues. Somebody has problems in their own work. Somebody has political problems. Generally, problems are there, but they differ from one level to another. So I always tell them, accept that you're in problem. And by the way, I believe the more you have problems and fall down, the more you will succeed in the future. And that the point stands. Success will never look for you. You have to look for success. That is what I believe in. I will continue fighting until, even if I'm 90 years old, still in the same situation, I don't give a shit. But I believe that I have my dignity, nobody takes it away from me, and I will keep serving the time that I have to help other people. At least, I don't expect everybody to follow what I say, at least somebody will listen. Not everybody will say when I tell, hey, stop drinking too much alcohol, it doesn't help you, don't fight each other because of the situation, accept it, and let us try. It's hard. I still keep saying it's very hard as a human being who is in a refugee situation or a migrant who have been denied everything. And by the way, you should tell the politicians that one thing, the worst disease in the world is to keep a human being doing nothing. You know, there's high rate of criminal stuff that might come up any time from now, because human beings, when they fed up, they opt for death. When you're mentally stable and everything is fine with you, you got to accept and say, this is not enough. I hope I will continue with what I'm doing, and I hope, I believe in a world of no border, no matter what they say. Let the politicians and anybody in the world help the refugees, migrants, and be people who they need to be. And thank you so much to everybody who's helping refugees. We know we have a lot of people who are helping us, and I will keep fighting till death. Thank you so much, and I love you, everybody.
Wow, incredibly hard act to follow. Well done. That was humbling to hear, to be honest. So I guess just to bring it back to kind of more of the theme around technology. So I've been looking into how technology is used in the refugee response more broadly. So it's a little less personal than what Fatuma was talking about, and a little less political than what Claudia was talking about. But I mean, so broadly speaking, I just wanted to give an overview of how technology is used in refugee responses right now. So kind of a few different areas in which we're seeing technology being used much more. One of those is identification, so giving refugees biometric IDs, so using fingerprints or iris scans or photo IDs, and helping them. So, I mean, the idea behind this is if you leave your home without much notice, and then you come somewhere and you've not got your passport, you've not got anything formal to prove who you are, you can go into refugee camps and you can get these identification documents, which in theory is really great. I mean, it means that if you then have to leave again at short notice and you don't have those papers, your iris is already in a database. So you can just have your iris scanned and you can find out who you are. Another area is service delivery, so making sure that food trucks are getting where they're going, that you know how many people are in your refugee camp, what kinds of things they need. A couple of refugee agencies have partnered with parcel delivery services like UPS so that they can actually use the same technology and track exactly where a food truck is at any one time, and then you can get real-time notifications of when things are being delivered, when water's being delivered, when food's being delivered, and that really helps in terms of logistics when you've got, you know, emergency responses, lots of refugees coming. Another area is kind of mentions what Fatuma was talking about is communications. So this is, for example, people tracing family members and needing to know where they are and needing to know what's going on, because as Fatuma said, information is super important in this kind of, when you have nothing else, you need to know what is going on and what you can do about it. So, for example, there's services like this group called Refugees Unite, who've started creating this database of people, and you can say who you are and who you're looking for, and it'll try and tell you where they are. So there are a few worries that I have with this, and I think they're probably echoed by lots of people within the privacy sphere. For example, so Refugees Unite, who I just mentioned, they have a database of over 350,000 refugees registered in this database, and they're aiming at having over 1 million people in this database. And in this database, it says, you know, personal traits, it says where they were last seen, it says where people think they're going. And in theory, that's great if all you're going to use it for is the best possible situation. So I need to find a family member, I enter my details into this database. But if I were a malicious actor who needs to find someone, who needs to do something less than noble, this is also exactly a really efficient way of finding who they are and where they are. And then thinking about technology and who's creating it and who has control of it. So lots of the development practitioners who are using these technologies, who are kind of doing the iris scans, who are doing the fingerprint scans, and who are saving those information, have very low levels of technical literacy and don't really understand how it works. So there's been a couple of examples of people interviewing development practitioners who are doing iris scans and asking them, you know, how accurate do you think this is? And they've generally answered 100% accurate. It never makes a mistake. Even if it goes against what the person in front of me is saying, the technology is always right. And I mean, we know that's not true. That's just, it's very rarely that anything is 100% secure, if ever. And then, you know, as Claudia mentioned, the dark side of digitization, the surveillance, thinking about the privacy rights of affected populations. So as we've already talked about, the people in this kind of situation have lost basically everything, and we should be even more respectful than we are normally of people's privacy rights and of surveillance, thinking about who has access to those databases, what they can do with it, who they're selling that information to or who they're using it with. So for example, earlier this year there was a quote in Al Arabiya saying, Turkey has provided some 1.5 million Syrian refugees with biometric IDs to be used in the provision of aid, job offers, education and social opportunities. It's all great. The database will also be used to identify those who have been involved in criminal activity. So this database is shared with the Turkish government because they're the host government, and often one of the prerequisites of tech companies setting these up is that with the refugee agencies is that the information that they collect will be shared back with the host government. So if you think about who is a criminal and according to whom, especially in really politically restrictive environments, it's a very blurred line, and I think I disagree with a lot of people who are identified as criminals in a lot of countries. And if you think about the people who are coming to a refugee camp, do they get given an option, or is that, is the area of consent is very, very blurry there? Like if you're asked something like, can I scan your iris to put in this database, by the same person who's going to say, can I give you food and water, you're probably not going to say no. Which is, if in this case, thinking like if the Turkish government is sharing this information with Assad's government, who is a criminal? Someone who differs from the Syrian government, and then where do they find them? In a refugee camp, which I think is just awful. So another trend that we're seeing, it's not really new, but it's a bigger movement now, is the idea of communication as aid. And I think this speaks a lot to what Fatuma was saying. Broadcasting information to populations, whether this be by mass SMS or in a low-tech environment, for example, just putting information on a blackboard in a place that people go to very often. And there's a trend of kind of encouraging citizens or stateless people or people affected by these populations to also give information back so it can inform program delivery. But generally, the trend that we're seeing is that communications in this way is fairly bilateral. So it's an agency or someone running the refugee camp who is delivering or broadcasting information to the refugee population, or sometimes it's the other way, an individual giving this information back to the agency, but there's not much that's between refugee and refugee. And I think, based on what Fatuma was saying, I think this is something that would be interesting to discuss, because that's something that people can do between themselves. It could also address the issue of privacy that we were talking about before. If it's not going through an intermediary, if it's not going through a tech company who usually is based in the US or Europe and rarely coming from the areas where we see many refugee camps, peer-to-peer sharing between refugees could also really help this experience.
Thanks a lot for this passion, for this esprit and power on the stage, for a very important theme, issue. You wanted to discuss a bit? Yeah.
Because I think we should be aware of rights we are denied now. What does it mean? We do not only need bread or water to survive. We also need these fundamental rights. And I'm sure that almost everybody of you would define freedom as a right to leave my country. For me, freedom means I have the right to leave Germany, if I want. But what does this right mean if I am not allowed to arrive anywhere? So if I have the freedom to leave a country, I must have the right to arrive. That means the right of migration, of free movement, which is denied. Or what I really think is terrible, and there should be really a kind of a broader opposition, that one is completely denying fundamental rights like the right of asylum. This right of asylum, to ask for asylum, belongs to you, to me, to you. And no state can say, oh, I take it away from you. It's a fundamental right, and the fundamental rights belong to an individual, belongs to me. So to criminalize people who wants to use this right, this individual right, to criminalize them. I don't know, but it's really, if you look at the television or read the news, more or less one is speaking about the so-called illegals. Is a person illegal because this person wants to use her or his proper right? And I think already in the language, we are criminalizing and denying rights of people. And this week and on Friday, we have a commemoration in the German Bundestag. It is May 8. This is the 70 years of the end of the Second World War. After this most terrible war, the most incredible human rights violation committed by the Nazis, by Germans, there was an international debate, what are the consequences out of this? And then there is the International Charter of Human Rights. And what you said, human rights means political rights. Okay, also my right to privacy, which is denied. We are in danger, but especially all refugees are also in danger. But then there are what you said, the social rights. I was in a camp in Libya. No, not in Libya, sorry, in Lebanon. I was in the camps in Lebanon and in Jordan, in Iraq, at the border, Syria, Iraqi, Turkish border. In one camp in Jordan, there are 125,000 refugees. And probably they have to stay there at least for 10 years. What about their social rights? What about the right to education? This is a fundamental right. What's about the right of housing? This is a fundamental right. What about the right to have a work? What you said, I think the most depressing thing is that there are people like you and me, educated. They want to work. They want to do something in her life. They cannot do anything. And I think that needs much more action against it, much more action, because every day we do not do anything against this, we lose our democracy and we lose our idea of living in freedom and in human rights. And this is really incredible. And there are so many people. We have 57 million people that are refugees, at least 57 million. All the people who had to flee because of the climate crisis are not counted. 57 million. In Lebanon, almost 2 million. In Jordan, almost 1.2 million. In Iraq, almost 2 million. In Turkey, 1.8 million. And not speaking about Nigeria, Sudan, Central African Republic, all these things. And if we do not do more against this denial and taking away and illegalization, criminalization, we all lose, not only the refugees.
Actually, when it comes to the point of employment, jobs, I actually don't need any money from the German government. I want to contribute to the society so that they can be in a position to help. The Germans, they have a lot of people who are in need of social help. There are a lot of disabled people. There are a lot of orphan children who don't have parents. There are a lot of people with dangerous diseases who can't do anything for themselves. There are a lot of drunkard people who don't know anything else beyond that. And they have social problems that led them into that. So I absolutely believe in a world of interdependency or independently. Myself, I don't need any money. That 300 doesn't mean anything to me. But on the other hand, I appreciate them because they're helping people who cannot manage to get those 300 for themselves. And I want to take this opportunity to thank the German government. On the other hand, disagree with them so much. One way I have to agree with them and appreciate them is that they welcomed us and gave us somewhere to sleep. That is something we have to credit, honestly speaking. That is something that somebody thought about and helped. That's nice of them. On the other hand, they're giving social money, which is nice of them. We thank them so much. But on the other hand, they're forgetting the most important part, which is helping these people. Because, you know, the politics, they're playing psychological game. Because what happens if you are put in a place where there's nobody close to you? You are in a very isolated place. Your neighbor is a forest. You have to walk 1 hour to go to the supermarket until you reduce like me. You become a skeleton like this person in front of you. It's a big shame. And somebody's just driving a big car. And then they don't think also to extra provide some public means, public transport, so that they can have special hours for these refugees who have been neglected in those unwanted areas. And this is a point that the German government should consider, putting refugees in very isolated places, because they always complain about integration. How can you integrate? How can you network? How can you connect when you don't have the means and the source to do this? When my neighbor puts a big dog in front of him, all electric wires to put me out of it, when they see you on the road, instead of saying hi, they just show you the back this way. This is not the world we should be living. I believe in a world of multicultural. I believe in a world where everybody respects the other person's needs and priorities. And I believe the German government can really do a lot about this, because there are a lot of neglected houses in so many places.
Yeah, absolutely.
And this is a big shame. That you put a human being in a very, very remote and isolated places. And also, let them not talk about the point of integration, because there is no point of integration when you are nowhere. How can I get integrated? I'm 1 year in Deutsch and ich sprach ein bisschen Deutsch und ich möchte lernen Deutsch. I don't know, 100, I don't know, 100, I don't know, how do we call 100? Yeah, but like you said, I always hear this song, kein Mensch ist illegal, bleibe I don't know, überall. You know, it's a big shame that I want to be part of the community. Everybody wants, any refugee and migrants wants to be part of the community. But we don't have that motivation from the community itself. I would love to help them. I always tell the refugees, can you go out and do some cleaning at least to appreciate the community, show them, prove them wrong that you are useless. Give them this point and shout on their ears that we want to help you. We are not enemies. We are not here for political interest. We are here to be part of the community and help you develop the country, actually. I'm here for that, and I believe all the refugees are here for that. We're not here to eat your money. We're not here to occupy the land. We are here for human protection. When everything becomes nice, definitely everybody will move back to wherever they came from. And you need to do a lot of capacity building. When I say you, I don't individually mean you. You're doing a beautiful, great job. I mean the ones you're challenging, your fellow politician. They should think beyond the seats they have. Think beyond this. Challenge yourself. There are so many solutions out there. Not fighting by air and trying to destroy boats. Those boats belong to fishermen who are innocent. You're talking about smugglers. Find your own way to deal with them, but not through innocent people who really don't know what they need to do with their life. They're here desperately looking for help, somebody to listen to them and give them some kind and warm welcome. For example, I saw one person in Mainz. I was 3 days in Mainz because this is part of my solidarity motivational speech. I don't have the financial means to do all this, but I still struggle and go to different places because that's all I can do right now. Because I'm idle. I don't have a job, nothing. I can't go to university, nothing, absolutely. So I need to use my time in an intellectual way, by myself. I need to create my own means and ways to deal with myself and how I can do things. And this is how I felt. And then when I went there, we were marking the memory of the people who died recently in the sea. And we were having a big candle night for them. I really can't, if I remember, really, it takes me into emotion. But when one person told me, Fatuma, I would have opted, I didn't know you before, you're giving me hope, but he said, I would have opted to be part of one of these people instead of being in Germany. And I said, why would you think like that? Your life is worthy. These people never wanted to die. Nobody wants a painful death because the most painful death is fire and water. You struggle. You look for help, but still you see only the sky or nobody to help you. It's painful death, and nobody wants a death when especially you see death is approaching you. We are here to help the German government. We are here to protect our life. On behalf of all the refugees in the world, I would like to ask all the politicians in the world, not only in Germany or in Europe, to help people who are desperately in need of help. Nobody wants to be a refugee. Nobody wants to be a migrant. Nobody wants to be in an isolated place where you don't have family members, you don't have friends, you don't know even the language of the country. It's a big shame. You know nothing, absolutely. Nobody wants to be in that world. Everybody deserves a happy world, and everybody deserves a nice respect and human rights, and let that be respected. And I would like to request everybody to stand up for 1 minute to mark a memory of the people who died in the sea. I want to take this opportunity. Thank you. Thank you.
Perhaps you said thank you to the German government or the governments of the states. I feel a little bit ashamed because I think Germany, one of the richest countries in the world, could do more. Let me give you some examples. Munich, very rich. Munich, proud to receive every year 13 million tourists. 13 million tourists. Munich, there's a big festival, beer festival every year, Oktoberfest, receiving 6.5 million guests in 2 weeks. 6.5 million, I do not know why, but they are coming. Okay, 6.5 million guests in 2 weeks. Last autumn, Munich had to take care of 2,000 refugees. They had to sleep in the streets. They were outside. There was not enough place. There was a big room, rain come in, a little bit like here, but old, very old, and it was raining, and there were about 200 men in one room, but at least they had one shower. So I feel ashamed if you say, thank you, we got something. I think this Germany could do really more. Or I met a teacher last week in my region, and she said, she's a wonder dedicated teacher, and she said, Claudia, we have to do something. In my classes, we have 27, 28 pupils, but during the year there are children coming. Children are coming, but they do not speak a single word of German. But we do not get any help, any support, any teachers to teach them in German. And I think so, I feel ashamed. Tomorrow we have a debate in the parliament, and I really also, Germany has to decide which way it want to go. Whether will it accept the responsibility for humanitarian protection and equal rights and human rights and the right of participation as an equal person in a society, or is it the other way around, what you mentioned, what you said? And my question would be to you, do you have the feeling, or do you think that they use refugees also like an experience? What can one introduce, and the first to be used? No, you understand what I mean? They use them, so they test new technologies. And I think what they are testing with refugees, if it's efficient, it will come to everybody of us. Perhaps you can explain once again what already is done with refugees, and I'm sure that they do not know what's happening with them. I'm quite sure when they arrive in Palermo, for example, after the hell on earth, the hell on the Mediterranean, and I spoke 3 days ago with a couple coming from Nigeria, and other men from Mali and from Gambia, 18 people in one beautiful farmhouse in the middle of Sicily. And I wanted to speak to them, and they could not even speak about what they suffered. And they said, not everybody survived these 3 days. But what's happening only to arrive in Libya, the rape, the violence, it took them 5 months. Nobody is speaking about the way from Nigeria to Libya. What's going on in Libya? I think it's also our task to communicate, to tell it's a word, to show pictures, to make interviews, to meet people, to ask that we do not think, oh, they are coming on the sea. What are they doing on the Mediterranean? And when they arrive, they do not understand what it means, these smart borders or whatever. They do not understand it. Why? You survived, others died. So I think we should be very, very conscious about what's happening already, and really organizing a big campaign against it.
Yeah, I mean, just going back to what you were saying about kind of whether technology is being used as experimentation in refugee camps, I think sadly that is a trend that we're seeing, especially, I mean, an example is the iris scanning database, or iris scanning technologies were first used on refugees passing between the Afghanistan and Pakistan border 15 years ago. And now we see them in airports in rich countries. And there is, I mean, it's awful how many people see the lack of legislation and the lack of, like, the weaker legal environment in refugee camps, especially, as an opportunity to try new technologies that wouldn't work in Germany or wouldn't work in the UK. And even, I mean, in some development projects, for example, in the UK, we completely rejected the idea of identification cards. But the UK, the development agency there, fund identification cards in many other countries, and it's used almost as a form of control in lots of ways. If you know how many people there are, you know where to find them, you know how you can control them, because as you were saying, I mean, information in this case really, really is power. And I mean, the people with the most amount of information about what's going on is the state, is the people who are controlling those borders. And the refugee agencies in lots of ways. And it's kind of scary, the amount of things that we see protested against in the media regarding surveillance of German nationals or US nationals are exactly the same things that are happening in refugee camps. It's just the information doesn't get out, and there's no one there fighting and talking to the media, and there's no media really on that. But I mean, I was like, one thing that strikes me a lot in what you were saying as racism being a lack of information. I think the way that German media and that Western media covers the refugee situation is something that needs to be addressed, because lots of people, I mean, we don't hear about all these stories. We don't hear the numbers, like about the number of refugees that had to be taken care of in Munich as compared to how many at Oktoberfest. And like that, having that information to the public, having it framed in a way and saying exactly what you're saying, but like what you're doing shouldn't just be to refugees, it should be to kind of the German population as a whole.
I wish the German government, when they're discussing some issues regarding refugee problems, we are the ones who have the problem. They should be allowing us in those kind of discussions and opening their ears for us, because we have ideas. They're discussing our problems, and we could have some inputs on how to handle this issue, even though we may not agree on everything, because nobody wants to be stepped on the head like that, and you shut the hell up. It doesn't apply in any human being's territory. Absolutely no. And the other thing is that why I was saying thank you to the German government is because there are so many countries that are not providing a lot of opportunities, but there are a lot of people who are saying thank you to the German government 100%, like Syrian people, because you get the documents immediately. Somebody like me, I say on one side thank you, on another I say no thank you. Mixed. Because in the German society, this is the fact also we can't ignore. As I mentioned before, they have their own people with problems to deal with. And as Claudia Roth said, I don't think they should be said thank you because of the explanations you give on how rich they are. Money is never everything. The government should at least give us some human dignity for capacity building. I saw somebody staying in Germany 18 years, 18 good years, and that person cannot speak Dutch. Actually, my Dutch was a bit better. I was like, really? Are you serious? 18 years in Germany and you can't speak Dutch? He said, yeah, he's from Nigeria. And I said, why don't you do something for yourself? Or did you think of something? He said, I don't know. People are different the way they handle situations. I don't have the strength. I don't have the motivation. I don't have anything. And I told him, I'm here to take the road with you. Are you ready to fight for yourself, even though you are the age of my father and I have to respect you? And he was like, the refugees are so scared to approach the media and talk about some of these problems. Everybody thinks that we are put in situation. Actually, just to give you briefly how I came to Repblica, I was trying to market the small program I'm trying to do in an invitation where I was, and a lady told me, who became my good friend later, why don't you apply Repblica? And I said, Repblica? I'm a refugee. And then she said, even though you're a refugee, who told you you can't share your ideas? And I said, are you sure they will be interested in somebody like me who's a refugee? That's the situation I was put in, honestly speaking. I was in Eisenhüttenstadt for 2 good months. And I was like, what is going on? I had to figure out what the hell was going on for 2 good months. And I had to interact with one of the social workers and said, hey, what is the way out here? Where's the train station? I never saw till death. Till now, I don't know where the Eisenhüttenstadt main train station is. I went 2 times to go and help people, but I'm lucky. I have friends who help me a lot, who are by my side, and that's why I'm doing this solidarity motivational speech, so that other refugees can have the same opportunity like me. I have a lot of nice people around me, and we have a lot more. It's only that we don't know how to identify these people and which strategies or tactics we can use to identify these people. And the refugees themselves, I spoke 2 days ago to one person in Eisenhüttenstadt, and I said, I want to come and do a motivational speech. Are you ready to help me? And then he said, I will talk to the mayor. I will talk to some organization who are helping there. And I told him, please ask them to provide food and drinks to the refugees, because I will invite a band from Berlin so that people can have been serious. I will be serious on one side to help them, what to do with their life and how to go about it. On the other hand, to have fun. Because people are just drinking and fighting and talking, nothing more. So I told him, could you please talk to this politician and tell them to spend a small budget? Just a small. And then he said, I'm not sure, but I will see. People need to have fun, just like you and anyone else here. We are human beings who deserve every right. You mentioned equality. Equal rights for everybody. Equal rights for everybody. Without this stupid skin, without your intellectual, without your physical appearance, without your disability, whatever you belong to is your problem. Anybody, any human being, as long as, even dogs, you see how dogs are treated? I'm not used to dogs. I saw dogs here so much. But they deserve that right, because even trees, they deserve that right to be fed with water. Otherwise, we will have a dead environment. We need something from the trees, and for us to need something from them, we need to do something in return. Thank you so much, and I hope the government will spend something to help us and work out a lot of things. We are here to help for change, and we will fight forever. Thank you.
Well, I think for the first time in a very long period, since 20, 30 years, I'm working on refugee questions. But for the first time ever, there's a majority in our country of people. The majority says we could do more. This is new. 10 years, 20 years ago, they said, oh, these refugees are coming, taking away work and whatever, houses. But now the majority in our country says, yes, we are ready to do more. We do more. So I think this is also a chance for the digital community to make pressure in the social networks, anywhere, to speak about what's going on in this world, to communicate, because we have wonderful journalists in Germany. But there is also the so-called CNN effect. CNN effect means if there are cameras on a specific crisis, then this crisis exists. But if there are no cameras, then all the other crises do not exist. And very soon, so sometimes 10 days or 1 week, there's the hot spot. but then it's forgotten. But it's not over. So a very good friend, Danielle Mitterrand, she was a very good friend of mine, and she said, "Vergesst sie nicht, vergessen tötet," mean don't forget them, because to forget would kill them. And I think this is the chance of living in a digital world, which brings us together, not to forget, to insist, to organize information, transparency, what's going on with these people, what's the situation in Nigeria, what's the situation in Senegal, in Mali, in the Ukraine with 1.2 million refugees. So not allowed to forget them, because this would kill them. For example, and also to speak to people, to go to speak to refugees, to learn about their biography. These are women, men, children, they have a biography. To communicate this, to get an emotional, to empathy for these people. I learned when I come back now on Sunday, for example, that only last year in Sicily, at least 16,000 children arrived without parents, only children. The representative of the Caritas and the Red Cross and the UNHCR, they told me, okay, children were also taken in families, okay, but there are many of these children, nobody knows where they are. And there is a traffic now going on, a traffic of children and a traffic of organs. So you find dead bodies of children without organs. This is terrible. We have to speak about it. We have to organize an international movement against these daily crimes. Don't forget it.
I guess one thing that I feel like we're slightly missing is the digital community is not just about spreading information. We can organize, and why should we wait for the German state to provide solutions? Yeah. We can help directly. There's a platform in Berlin called Give Something Back to Berlin that just has connection. It connects basically people who have time and resources and want to help mainly refugee communities, having fun, learning things, learning German. And they're not waiting for the German state to provide solutions because it's slow and bureaucratic lots of times. It's just directly creating that connection.
But also not allow the state to say, oh no, well, there's a private initiative. Churches can do it, people can do it, neighbors can do it. It's not our task. First of all, the state is responsible, but you are fully right. One could make pressures exactly with private initiatives.
Yeah. I've just seen we're out of time, sadly.
What does it mean?
What does the zero
what
mean?
What does it mean?
Cool.
So we interrupt, huh?
Yeah.
We interrupt this discussion.
We have to interrupt it. Well, thank you very, very much for this impressive talk. Zara Rahman, Claudia Roth, Fatuma Musa.